everybody. My name is Gabby and I'm founder of Diversity Alliance and the Diverse Speaker Bureau. Today I'm wearing a long grey kind of warm top. I've got long dark hair with blonde highlights in. I've got my gold chain on, red lipstick. I've got brown skin and my background is neutral, like a pale beigey colour. And I've got my plant chas here as well, not dyed, actually thriving. I'm not quite sure how that's worked, but he is. So I'm very, very pleased he's still here. Touch wood. I don't want to jinx anything. But I'm really delighted to introduce our first guest for the Diversity Alliance Disability Awareness Month campaign. So Lizzy, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Lizzy Eaton. I'm the founder and director at Oddity Events and Marketing. I have my hair scraped back in a ponytail. I'm wearing big clear glasses and I've got pale skin wearing a black top.
We look like we've twinned today a little bit, actually. So we're both wearing long sleeved dark tops.
But I'm wearing short sleeves because pregnant ladies, also I'm pregnant. So pregnant ladies need to be cool because it's warm having a baby.
I can imagine. And congratulations, by the way. It's so exciting. Oh, and I'm really delighted to have you on today, actually, because I remember when I was first kind of starting on this journey around pushing for, advocating for, providing training, consultancy around DEI and events. I remember you popped me a link to something and you said to me, have you ever heard of Purple Tuesday? And I was like, no, I definitely need to check this out. It was quite early on in my journey, and as kind of somebody who I don't know, it advocates for all types of diversity. So even though I'm a woman of colour, it's not just around people of colour, it's, you know, around LGBTQ community, age, gender, disability, etc. But at the time, my journey was very much still focused on what had started and kickstarted the journey, which was around supporting people of colour in the events industry. So I kind of like filed it away in my little box, but I always knew that Lizzy would be someone to go back to talk about this. So actually, before we kick off kind of like how your journey around advocating for accessibility started, maybe just explain to people what Purple Tuesday is actually.
Yeah, Purple Tuesday is a global movement that's set up by Mike Adams, who's the CEO, which is basically like a big advocacy movement for raising awareness for people with disabilities and the challenges that they face day to day, particularly in the sort of customer service area. So they every year on the first Tuesday in November, they have a sort of like a mini event at Piccadilly Circus where their sponsors and stuff help them light up Piccadilly Circus and all sorts of Purple Tuesday branding, and then they follow that with events and promotions and stuff throughout the day. But you'll probably see lots of Purple Tuesday campaigns in the months and weeks leading up to. And then the big crescendo is that light show in Piccadilly Circus where Mike and the team will go and they'll show some statistics on the big screen in Piccadilly Circus, and lots of the ambassadors will be there. And I had the privilege of going there last year. And it's just such an amazing thing. And I wasn't really aware of Purple Tuesday until I saw it at Piccadilly Circus a few years ago, and I've just been following it ever since. And it's just such a great resource and point of reference for anybody who wants to know more about disability and the challenges that people who are disabled face.
I love that. And I bet a lot of people listening or watching haven't even heard about Purple Tuesday, or they might have done, but not realize how big the campaign was actually. I mean, I didn't even. So I'm hoping this will inspire people to actually like go along if they can, go and visit Piccadilly Circus, follow the campaign, follow the movement. So thank you for sharing that with us. And there's something else I also really, you know, I've known you for a couple of years now, Liz, and there's something else that I really like about you, which is very much your kind of honesty and authenticity. And I think sometimes speaking from an event industry perspective and from my experience only, I'm not saying everyone else might think this, but from my experience, quite often the industry isn't always great at saying what they're not so good at or what mistakes they've made or where they can make improvements around things. But you've not been like that. And I really admire that. And I really admired your story on how you kind of came to start advocating for accessibility and disability awareness. I think it'd be really interesting for our listeners and viewers maybe to learn a bit more about how this came into your orbit and into your world. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, your journey.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, you're right. We are quite a proud bunch, aren't we? But yeah, so the reason why I started advocating for people with disabilities in events is frankly because I messed up really badly at my old job before I started Oddity. And um so basically I had planned an event for the employees of the business that I was working at the time. There was a new starter who has muscular dystrophy, and he's a good pal of mine now.
Mm.
And you know, I thought, yeah, all fine. The venue has got access. It's just, you know, round the back in the service entrance and through the ziff. And so when I sent the invitations out and I sort of communicated this, because I wasn't completely aware of you know, the severity of his disability. And I just, you know, I just thought, okay, well, I've done my bit, fine. And so when the information went out and I said, okay, hope to see you all there. And he messaged me saying that he'd done some research into the venue, and obviously because he had to find some stuff out for himself so that he felt confident to attend. And he said, Lizzy, just so that you know, I'm not going to come to the event because I don't really want to go through the back or, you know, through the goods lift, and to be able to join my colleagues. And the reason for that is because when I'm invited to events, I don't want to be reminded of my disability at every stage of my participation. And my mind had like a eureka moment, but not necessarily in a positive way, because I realized like I had such a huge amount of empathy for him at that moment. And I realized that I had never considered how it might feel to see all your colleagues going in through one way and you having to go through the back, through the service door, and in a lift where all the porters are going so that you can join them. And it made me realize that I had no awareness of the implications or the consequences of not planning an event in a properly inclusive way. So that's my story, really. Like it was a eureka moment, but not in a positive way, of having messed up really badly and just having a slap of empathy and sudden realization that I had such a huge lack of awareness.
Yeah. And you know, you're probably almost definitely not the only person who has experienced something like that. And it is great to see now across the board, actually, so not just in the events industry, taking more notice and around accessibility and taking it more seriously. You know, I'm seeing it in a lot more places that I go to now. I was at, where was I? Oh, I was going to Birmingham, as you know, Monday, and I was at Euston Station, and they had the timetable on the board, you know, the departures and whatnot, and they had BSL announcing the departures. And I was like, wow, okay, this is really cool.
It's
Like,
cool.
yeah. And it's so amazing that, I mean, it's not so amazing. I mean, it's a shame it's taken us this long, but at least now that we're starting for things to be a lot more considered and more out in the open as well. Whereas before it'd be like if somebody needed some extra support or needed some changes made or needed some accommodations or whatever, it would always be a bit like, I don't know, it's just kept very much under the radar, and it was always done on a case-by-case basis rather than
Yeah.
allowing accessibility to be available to anyone who might need it.
Yeah.
I think that rhetoric's kind of changing now, which is amazing. But I know that this is something that you discuss in your Inclusive Events Design Playbook. So let's talk a little bit about because actually by the time this comes, oh, actually no, why don't you share the launch and then we'll talk a little bit about it. So what's the launch date again?
So the launch day is, by
Sorry.
coincidence, no, we planned it. It's on Purple Tuesday. So once everybody has finished looking at Piccadilly Circus and following Mike and the team and their activity, our launch will be at 4 p.m. GMT. It's definitely not summer anymore, is it? And we will be discussing. We'll be showing the interview that I had with Tom and Isaac, and you and I will have a discussion. We'll be talking to a venue, and we'll be talking to an event planner as well who uses a wheelchair, and just trying to consider all these different perspectives. And it's launching our playbook, which is the beginning of an industry standard industry guide to help other event profs start their journey to make their events more inclusive and accessible, because we felt that, you know, there are so many points of reference and we just wanted to consolidate those to an extent. And what we've done is, since last Purple Tuesday, we committed to a year of training. So we've done a year's worth of training. We've written blogs, we've done loads of reading, and we've developed this industry guide, which, to be honest, is never going to be finished, because we just want to keep refreshing it. As I said before, like taking on the feedback, updating it where we can, but just being a port of call for event planners to have the tools to enable them to improve the accessibility and inclusion for people with disabilities at their events. So hopefully that does the trick. But you know, well, hopefully the feedback is good. Like I said, we are still learning so much, and I'm sure that there are things that we're getting wrong, but I'm now in a position where I want to just keep learning and keep trying. And by being authentic and frank about it, I hope that it helps bring other event managers on the journey with us.
And I'm sure it will. You know, I've luckily had a sneak peek and it's all looking fantastic. And I think it's going to be super useful for the industry. I really, really do. Why don't you give us, without obviously giving away the full content, maybe give us a few kind of like teasers on what people can expect to find in the playbook?
Yeah, so as well as our research and our training, we issued a survey. We tried to spread it far and wide, and we've come with some statistics specifically around event participation for those who have disabilities. So you'll see some juicy stats in there, as well as some guidance on how to select an inclusive venue, how to distribute inclusive communications, and to create inclusive and accessible content. So like I said, we're just at the tip of the iceberg, and there will be loads more stuff that we can add in there, but it's basically like a starting point, just to get everybody going on their journey. And hopefully the playbook does that. It's not too long, I hope.
No, it's very digestible. It really is. I know,
tried to keep it quite snappy.
who likes to write like a War and Peace, and I'm people are like, yeah, can we just like make it a bit shorter? I'm so bad at editing, but when I kind of got a chance to look at yours, I'm like, this is clear, it's concise. I know where I can go and do further reading. I know where maybe there's some areas that I'm not sure about that I need to look into a bit more. So I think it is going to be a really, really great starting point, and as you said, something that can be built on year and be a useful guide.
Yeah, and we're not going to pretend to be experts, so what we've done as well is point to the sources that we have built our playbook on, and included links to videos, links to articles, links to really like actually very interesting legislation and reports that the government have done, just as like loads of points of reference, so that if you're not sure about something, there is a collection of learning resources in the playbook that you could just click through and see if you can find the answer if it's not in the playbook itself.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully planners will share this far and wide. Hopefully it can be put on to kind of like as part of workplace tools and resources, or
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's the aim. But as you said, it's just sometimes just sparking a bit of a awareness around something and sort of saying, have you considered this, and have you thought about this? And actually this is something that is not so accessible, because we can't, as you said, we can't all know everything. We're all very busy people, so having something that is a nice reference tool that we can go back to and refer to and sort of say, oh, okay, we do need to think about our font sizes in relation to this, or
right, exactly,
what fonts we're using, or what colors we're using, or what we should be asking venues. It's such a good starting point. It's great.
I think that we found ourselves, if I'm speaking honestly, I found myself when I was editing it thinking like, don't people already know this? Like, I don't want to be really patronizing, but I think a lot of it is just like hammering the message home about being consistent. And while it might seem obvious and like common sense, sometimes even the most obvious common sense things don't happen. So I think it's just reiterating the message that this is the basic standard that we should be delivering all the time.
Yeah, and you know what? Usually it's the most obvious things we don't think about. We kind of, and I'm somebody who does this. I always go for the most challenging information or I don't know, tasks that I need to do. I don't know why I go for that. Go for the hardest thing first. I think that's going to take the longest. It's going to be the most important. I should do that first. And we forget the basics, you know. And so what we do, and I'm kind of throwing this at you. I didn't give you a chance to prepare this, so I'll be quite flexible. But usually what we ask our guests to do is to share one book. Normally it's a book, but for you, I'm gonna allow either a resource or even you kind of mentioned a TED talk there. So anything that you would recommend for our watchers, our listeners, to help them on their kind of accessibility inclusion journey.
Yeah, so obviously the TED Talks, that's called I'm Not Your Inspiration. And there's one by Mike Adams, who's the CEO of Purple Tuesday, where he talks about where he traveled all the way to the Southwest to speak at an event and got stuck in a toilet after he traveled all that way because like it was just not suitable. And can I do a book as well?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so the book that I recommend is called Universal Design: Creating Inclusive Environments, and it's mostly about sort of built environment and things like that, but I think there is a lot of parallels that we can take from these sort of specialist publications. We should have to be a bit open-minded, you know.
Yeah, and as you said, move out of our industry and look to other industries that are actually doing this well, and other environments and communities. So amazing. As I said, I'll make sure I share the links to all of these, your recommendations, and just a big thank you for joining me. And I'm so looking forward to the release of the guide, the playbook, and also I think our conversation, our interview will have happened by the time this comes out, but I'm sure I would have loved it.
Yeah, it's going to be such a good discussion, Gabby. Thank you for all your support as always.
No worries. And if this has come out, well, this will definitely come out after your special launch event. I'll make sure that also we can put any links or to the recording or whatever. Totally up to you. Also,
That'd be great. Yeah, that would be really great. I love it. Gab, so you're going to make me famous.
I'm just always just like, I'm here for everyone. I'm like, if I can help, I will. I've got everyone's back. So if I see you doing anything good, I'm like,
I love it. I'm looking forward to us chat on the sea vent thing as well the next day, so we can catch up then.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for your time.